John Miller stood at the viewing port of the diplomatic shuttle, watching as the gleaming silver towers of Centauri Prime grew larger. His heart beat faster, not just from the slightly higher gravity that the ship's computer had warned him about, but from the weight of responsibility. He was the first human ambassador to the Galactic Empire, representing all of Earth. "Ambassador Miller, we will dock in 5 minutes," said the alien pilot. His voice came through the translator as flat and mechanical. John straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and touched the small Earth flag pin on his lapel. He had practiced this moment many times back home, but now that it was real, his mouth felt dry. The shuttle glided into a massive docking bay where dozens of ships from different worlds were parked. John had never seen so many different spacecraft designs. Some looked like giant insects, others like smooth river stones, and a few resembled nothing he could compare to Earth objects. When the door slid open, a blast of scented air hit him. It smelled like cinnamon and metal. 6 aliens waited at the bottom of the ramp. They all looked different. One had purple skin and 4 arms, another was short with thick fur covering its body, and the tallest had skin that seemed to shift colors like an octopus. "Welcome to Centauri Prime, Ambassador Miller," said the tallest alien. "I am Zoltek, Grand Minister to Emperor Vexnar XIV, ruler of the 10,000 worlds." John bowed slightly, just as he had been taught. "Thank you for your welcome. Earth is honored to join the galactic community." The aliens exchanged glances that John couldn't read. The furry one made a sound like quiet laughter. "Yes, well," said Zoltek, "we must proceed to the reception. The Emperor has granted you 10 minutes of his time later today. This is a great honor for a— what was your classification again?" "Ah yes, a Class 7 developing world." John followed, them through long hallways filled with strange art and even stranger beings. Some aliens turned to stare at him, while others barely glanced his way. He felt like a child at an adult's party, tolerated but not taken seriously. The reception hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that small flying creatures that looked like a cross between birds and jellyfish floated near the top. Hundreds of aliens stood in groups drinking from containers of all shapes and materials. Zoltek guided John to a small group. "This is the human ambassador I mentioned," he said, and then walked away without introducing the others. One alien, who seemed to be covered in small blue scales and had webbed hands, turned toward John. "I am Zalthorn, representative of Hydros. Ifi, we have heard of your world, though not much. What do you call it again?" "Earth," John said. "We're very pleased to join the galactic community." Another alien snorted. This one looked almost like a tall human except for its greenish skin and extra set of eyes. "Your world has only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, has it not? Through the wormhole gate in your system that you stumbled upon by accident?" John tried not to show his irritation. "Yes, we found the gate near Pluto 20 years ago, but we've made quick progress since then." "Indeed," said Zalthorn, the blue-scaled alien. "Tell me, what resources does your world possess that might interest the Empire? Rare metals? Exotic biologicals?" John thought about Earth's resources. "Well, we have diverse ecosystems with millions of plant and animal species. Our culture has rich art, music, and literature. As for physical resources, Earth has large mineral deposits, and of course, water covers about 70% of our planet's surface." The group went completely quiet. Zalthorn's scales changed from blue to pale white. The green alien's 4 eyes all widened at once. Around them, other nearby conversations stopped too. It was as if John's words had sent out invisible waves across the room. Zalthorn spoke in a whisper. "Did you say 70% water on the surface, not underground or in vapor form?" John nodded, confused by their reaction. "Yes, we have 5 major oceans. Water is very common on Earth." The green alien made a choking sound. Across the room, John noticed that Zoltek was staring at him. The Grand Minister's skin had turned from shifting colors to a solid white. He dropped his ceremonial goblet, which shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to pick it up. "Is something wrong?" John asked. Zalthorn's webbed hand trembled as he reached for John's sleeve. Human, are you playing some kind of joke? Because such claims could be considered offensive if untrue. No, it's just a fact about Earth. Most of our planet is covered in water. Our oceans are kilometers deep in places. Why would that be offensive? The green alien leaned close and spoke very quietly. Because water of that quantity would make your planet the richest in the known galaxy. John blinked in surprise. The richest? But water is just water. We use it for drinking, cleaning, recreation. It falls from our sky regularly. This statement caused another shocked silence. One alien nearby actually fainted, collapsing into the arms of its companions. Zoltek was rushing toward them now, his face a mask of diplomatic calm but his skin still pale white. Ambassador Miller, I believe we should proceed to the Emperor's audience chamber immediately. The schedule has been adjusted. But you said that wasn't for hours, John replied. Circumstances have changed, Zoltek said sharply. He gripped John's arm with surprising strength and pulled him toward the exit. John could feel hundreds of alien eyes following him. As they hurried through the corridors, John asked, Can you please explain what's happening? I don't understand the reaction to basic information about Earth. Zoltek stopped and looked around to ensure they were alone. Ambassador Miller, in the Empire, water is the most valuable substance known. Many worlds have none. The richest have small lakes or underground reservoirs they guard with massive armies. The Empire's entire economy is based on water distribution and water rights. And you just casually announced that your world has more of it than perhaps all Imperial worlds combined. John felt dizzy as he began to understand. So when I said that about Earth's oceans, you essentially declared that your small, previously insignificant world is wealthier than the Emperor himself. Zoltek finished. And now, human ambassador, the future of your planet has become very complicated. Lisa Summers stepped off the emergency transport and onto Centauri Prime with her head still spinning. Just 72 hours ago, she had been teaching a class on theoretical alien economics at Stanford University. Now she was billions of miles from Earth, about to join an emergency meeting with the highest officials of the Galactic Empire. Dr. Summers, thank you for coming so quickly, John Miller said, meeting her at the dock. His face looked tired and worried. The situation has gotten more complex than we could have imagined. Lisa adjusted the collar of her hastily packed formal suit. Ambassador Miller, your message said something about a water crisis? John glanced around and lowered his voice. It turns out that mentioning Earth's oceans was like telling a starving man we have endless food. The Empire runs on water-based currency. Most worlds have almost none. They think we've been hiding our wealth. That's absurd, Lisa said. We didn't know about the galactic community until we found the wormhole gate. How could we hide anything? Logic isn't winning the day right now, John said as they walked through the gleaming hallway. The Emperor has called an emergency economic council. You're our only expert on theoretical alien economic systems. Lisa felt a weight in her stomach. Her theories were just that. Theories. She had never expected to test them in real life. They entered a round chamber where dozens of aliens sat in tiered seats like a small arena. At the center was a large holographic display showing Earth, slowly rotating. The room went quiet as Lisa and John entered. A tall alien with shifting skin, colors approached them. Ambassador Miller, is this the expert you promised? Yes, Grand Minister Zoltek. This is Dr. Lisa Summers, Earth's leading xenoeconomist. Zoltek looked Lisa up and down. Very well. The Council is ready to hear Earth's explanation for this. Economic ambush. Ambush? Lisa whispered to John as they followed Zoltek to the center of the room. Their words, not mine, John whispered back. The council members stared at Lisa with expressions she couldn't read on their alien faces. Some looked angry, others seemed afraid. One small, furry alien was actually trembling. Zoltek spoke in a loud voice that echoed through the chamber. For 10,000 years, the Imperial Water Standard has maintained galactic economic stability. The amount of water on 50 core worlds forms the basis of our entire financial system. Now we learn that a single planet, not even a full member of the Empire, possesses water reserves that could destabilize everything we've built. A blue-scaled alien rose from his seat. Minister, I propose immediate action. Earth's water must be brought under Imperial control before news spreads and causes market panic. Shouts of agreement came from around the room. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. She stepped forward. If I may speak, she said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. The room quieted. I am Dr. Lisa Summers. On Earth, I study how different economic systems might work across different worlds. What you see as an economic threat, we see as a chance to help. Help? Shouted a green alien with 4 eyes. Your world has lied about its wealth. Lisa shook her head. We didn't lie. We simply didn't know that water was valuable here. On Earth, water falls freely from our sky. We drink it, wash with it, play in it. Children splash in puddles after it rains. This caused an uproar. One alien shouted something that didn't translate. Another seemed to be praying. Zoltek raised his hands for quiet. Dr. Summers, you must understand our position. A single Earth ocean contains more water than the combined reserves of our 50 wealthiest systems. This fact cannot simply join our economic models without massive disruption. Then perhaps the models need to change, Lisa suggested. Earth doesn't want to disrupt your economy. We want to be partners. The council erupted again in various alien languages. Above the noise, Zoltek announced, this council will take a recess while Imperial scientists verify Earth's water claims, as Yao. The aliens filed out, still arguing loudly. John turned to Lisa. That went about as well as expected. They think we're economic terrorists because we have rain, Lisa said, shaking her head. How do we fix this? Before John could answer, a small group of aliens approached them. The one in front wore an elaborate uniform with symbols that looked like water droplets. I am Senior Hydrologian Krillzax, the alien said. The Emperor has ordered me to lead a research team to your planet immediately. We must verify these claims of surface water. John nodded. Earth will cooperate fully. One of our military officers will accompany you as a liaison. I've already been briefed, said a woman's voice. Lisa turned to see a U.S. Space Force officer in a crisp uniform approaching. Commander Kelly Brooks. I'll be escorting the Imperial scientists to Earth. Krillzax looked at Commander Brooks with all 4 of his eyes blinking in sequence. Our vessel leaves in 1 hour. We will require full access to these oceans UI claim exist. You'll have it, Commander Brooks said, and I suggest you bring swimwear if your species uses it. You might want to experience the Pacific Ocean firsthand. The alien scientist made a sound that might have been a scoff. Commander, we're going to conduct serious measurements, not engage in whatever swimming means. 3 days later, Lisa sat in the emergency council chamber again, watching the live feed from Earth. The Imperial research vessel hovered over the Pacific Ocean, its sensors extended. On the ship's observation deck, Krillzax and his team of scientists stared down at the endless blue water stretching to the horizon. That can't be all water, one alien scientist said, their voice coming through the translation system. It must be a thin layer over solid ground. The camera showed Commander Brooks smiling. Would you like to test that theory? We're at a depth of approximately 3,000 meters here. Krillzax's instruments beeped and flashed. The alien scientist stumbled backward. This is impossible. Our readings indicate pure H2O, extending for thousands of kilometers in all directions, with an average depth exceeding human measurement claims. In the council chamber, the aliens watched in stunned silence. One banker-looking alien with 6 arms was frantically working on some kind of calculating device, muttering about market effects and value dilution. The camera zoomed in on Commander Brooks as she poured water from a flask into a cup. Would anyone like a drink? It's fresh from my hometown well. Krillzax took the cup with trembling hands and analyzed it with a small device. Pure water, simply given away. He looked at the cup as if it were made of gold. Lisa turned to John and whispered, I think we're going to need a new economic model. Frank Warren stared out at the massive Galactic Senate chamber and tried to calm his racing heart. 6 months ago, he had been teaching geography to bored high school students in Ohio. Now he was Earth's newly appointed senator, sitting in a room with aliens from hundreds of worlds. The Senate hall looked like a giant bowl with thousands of seats rising in curved rows. Each seat had different supports and shapes to fit the various alien bodies. The Senate speaker, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like polished copper, struck a glowing rod against the floor. The sound rang out, and the noisy chamber grew quiet. This emergency session of the Galactic Senate will now begin, the speaker announced. Our first matter concerns the planet Earth and its unprecedented water resources. Frank wiped his sweaty hands on his pants. When he had been chosen for this job, officials said they wanted someone who understood Earth's geography and could explain it simply. They didn't mention the pressure. The speaker continued, "We will hear from the 3 major factions that have submitted formal positions. First, Count Drex of Xerxes 9 will present the acquisitioner's proposal. A large alien with thick gray skin and small eyes stood up. He wore a military-style uniform covered in medals. His voice boomed through the translation system. Honored senators, the solution is simple. Earth has been hiding vast water wealth while many worlds suffer from shortages. The Empire must establish direct control over Earth's water resources immediately. We propose placing Earth under imperial protection with a governing military council." Frank wrote down, "They want to take over Earth" in his notes. The human diplomats had warned him about the acquisitioners. They were basically space conquistadors, looking for resources to claim. "Next," said the speaker, "we will hear from Elder Phil of the Chlorian Collective." A thin, plant-like being rose gracefully. Leaves rustled along its arms as it moved. Its voice sounded like wind through branches. "Water is sacred. Earth must be designated as a protected reservoir planet. No one may disturb its natural cycles. We propose a complete quarantine, with Earth sealed off from all galactic travel until proper studies can be completed over the next 300 years. Frank frowned and wrote, "They want to put Earth in timeout for 300 years. That was just as bad as a military takeover." Finally, the speaker said, "We will hear from Merchant Prince Nex Corps of the Orion Belt Trading Alliance." A small alien with 6 arms and glittering jewels embedded in its purple skin stood up. It wore so many layers of shimmering fabric that it was hard to see its actual body. "Esteemed colleagues, why resort to force or isolation when we can establish mutually beneficial trade? The Trading Alliance proposes exclusive commerce rights with Earth. We offer advanced technology, protection, and limited membership in the Alliance in exchange for reasonable water export rights." Frank wrote, "They want to be Earth's only customer, and probably cheat us," in his notes. He had studied enough history to recognize colonialism in fancy clothes. The speaker turned toward Frank. "The Senate now recognizes Senator Warren of Earth." Frank stood up. The room went completely quiet. Thousands of alien eyes focused on him. He took a deep breath. "Thank you, honored speaker and senators. Earth is still new to the galactic community. We didn't know water was rare out here. On our world, water falls from the sky regularly. We call it rain. Most of our planet is covered by oceans. Our children play in water. We use water for fun." A shocked murmur spread through the chamber. Frank continued, "We have swimming pools in our backyards just for enjoyment. Some people have water balloon fights where they throw small bags of water at each other for fun. We have water parks where sliding through water is entertainment." One senator shouted something that didn't translate well. Another seemed to be calculating numbers frantically on a device. Frank could see Count Drex's face darkening with what looked like anger. "Earth does not wish to disrupt galactic economics," Frank said, remembering his briefing from Lisa Summers. "But we will not surrender our independence or our resources. We are willing to work with all galactic citizens to share water in a fair way. But Earth will remain free to make its own choices." The Senate erupted into shouting. The speaker struck the floor repeatedly with the glowing rod, trying to restore order. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Nancy Clark sat in the Oval Office listening to reports from military advisors. The large screen on the wall showed alien ships gathering near the edge of the solar system. Not close enough to be an immediate threat, but definitely sending a message. "How many ships now, General?" she asked. General Peter Young pointed to the display. 17 Imperial vessels, Madam President. Mostly observation class, but 3 appear to be warships. Nancy nodded. She had been president for just 2 years. Her election campaign had focused on healthcare and education. No one had mentioned potential alien conflicts and our options. "Limited, ma'am," the general said. "Their technology is far beyond ours. If they decide to take Earth's water by force, we couldn't stop them." Secretary of State Olivia Martinez spoke up. "The diplomatic team on Centauri Prime reports that the Senate debate is getting heated. Many worlds are panicking about potential economic collapse if Earth's water enters the market too quickly." Nancy stood up and walked to the window. Outside, it was raining lightly on the White House lawn. The simple sight of water falling freely from the sky would apparently amaze most of the galaxy. "Get me Admiral Johnson," she said. "I want to hear his water gambit plan again." 10 minutes later, Admiral Steve Johnson stood in the Oval Office with a digital presentation ready. "Madam President, the Empire has us outgunned, but we have something they want more than victory in battle: water. And unlike them, we know how to make more of it accessible." He showed a slide of one of Earth's large desalination plants. Most galactic worlds with small amounts of water don't have efficient ways to purify it or extract it from underground sources. Our desalination and water management technology is actually more advanced than theirs in many ways. They've never needed to develop it because water is so rare. They just hoard what they have. Nancy leaned forward. "You're suggesting we use our water technology as leverage?" Steve nodded. "Exactly. We can't beat their warships, but we can offer something better than war. A solution to the galactic water shortage that doesn't require taking Earth's oceans." Olivia looked doubtful. "Will they listen to reason if they think it's easier to just take what they want?" "That's why timing is crucial," Steve said. "We need to demonstrate our value before they decide to move against us, and I have a plan for that." Back on Centauri Prime, Frank Warren watched as alien diplomats argued with each other. The Senate session had devolved into chaos. Factions were forming before his eyes, with some senators calling for immediate action against Earth and others urging caution. A small alert beeped on Frank's communication device. It was a message from Earth. "Water Gambit approved. Stand by for Phase 1. Frank didn't know exactly what that meant, but for the first time since arriving at the Senate, he felt a small spark of hope. Admiral Steve Johnson stood in front of a large screen showing a map of nearby star systems. Around him sat Earth's leadership team: President Nancy Clark, Secretary of State Olivia Martinez, and Dr. Alice Bennett, head of Earth's new Galactic Technology Division. The room was deep underground in a secure military facility. "The Imperial warships have moved closer," Steve said, pointing to blinking red dots near Jupiter. "They're still maintaining a non-aggressive position, but they're sending a message." President Clark nodded. "And our response?" "The water gambit is ready," Steve said. He touched a control and the screen changed to show hundreds of small blue dots. "These are our automated water technology capsules. Each one contains our most advanced desalination equipment, water recycling systems, and atmospheric moisture collectors, plus instructions that can be understood by any species." Dr. Bennett stepped forward. "We've worked around the clock to make these systems compatible with alien technology. Each capsule can help a small colony world process enough water for thousands of beings." The scientist pushed her glasses up. "They're designed to be easy to use, impossible to weaponize, and they clearly show Earth as the source." Olivia looked concerned. "You're suggesting we just give this technology away? Our only advantage?" Steve shook his head. "Not give away. Strategically. Share. These capsules will go to the poorest, most water-starved worlds first, the ones the Empire has neglected for centuries. Creating allies," President Clark said. "Understanding." "Exactly," Steve confirmed. "If the Empire moves against us after we've helped struggling worlds, they'll look like bullies attacking a benevolent species. Plus, we aren't giving away our most advanced versions or the knowledge to build more. Just enough to help and to demonstrate what humans can offer. President Clark stood up and walked to the window. Outside, rain pattered against the glass. "Launch Operation Rainfall," she said, "and send word to Senator Warren that help is coming." 3 days later, Frank Warren sat in his temporary office on Centauri Prime. The Senate had been in continuous session, but they had made little progress. The three factions continued to argue, with more worlds joining one side or another each day. Frank had tried to speak several times, but the more powerful senators kept talking over him. His communication device beeped with an urgent message. The screen showed Admiral Johnson's face. "Senator Warren, Operation Rainfall is underway. 400 capsules launched 6 hours ago. They'll reach the target worlds within days. You need to make an announcement to the Senate immediately." Frank felt both relief and worry. The Empire won't like this. Steve's expression was serious. "That's the point. We need to control the narrative before they can respond. Tell them exactly what we're doing and why." An hour later, Frank stood before the Senate again. This time he had requested an emergency speaking slot. Citing Earth diplomatic privilege, the speaker had reluctantly agreed. "Senators of the Galactic Empire," Frank began, his voice stronger than before, "while you have been debating Earth's fate without our input, my world has taken action. 400 water technology capsules are currently traveling to the most water-poor worlds in the galaxy." The chamber erupted in shouts. Count Drex stood up, his face dark with rage. "This is an act of economic warfare. Earth is destabilizing established water markets." Frank held up his hands. "These capsules contain technology to help worlds process what little water they have more efficiently. They will allow colonies that have suffered for generations to create their own sustainable water supplies. This isn't economic warfare, it's humanitarian aid." The plant-like Elder Phil rose slowly. "What does Earth gain from this generosity?" "We gain friends," Frank said simply. "And we demonstrate that Earth wants to be a positive force in the galaxy. We have no interest in hoarding resources or using them for power. We want to share knowledge that can help everyone." Merchant Prince, NextCore's many arms moved in agitation. "This technology, it belongs in regulated markets. You cannot simply distribute it without proper commercial channels." "The technology remains Earth property," Frank explained. "We're sharing its use, not its secrets, and we're targeting worlds that your trading alliance has deemed unprofitable for centuries." On the main view screen, a new image appeared. It showed hundreds of small blue dots moving through star systems. Each dot represented a capsule heading toward a struggling world. Back on Earth, Dr. Alice Bennett watched from a control room as the capsule's progress was tracked. Beside her, a young engineer named Paul Garcia monitored the signals. "First capsule has arrived at Drax's colony," Paul reported. "They've activated the atmospheric moisture collector. It's working perfectly." Alice allowed herself a small smile. "Show me their water readings." A graph appeared on screen. The line representing available clean water at the colony began to rise steadily. "Send this data to Senator Warren," Alice said. "The Senate needs to see real results." On Centauri Prime, Frank watched as live images began to appear on the Senate's massive display screen. They showed beings on a dusty planet gathering around a capsule marked with Earth's flag. As they activated the system, water, clean, clear water, began to flow from a collection tank. The aliens touched it with wonder, some bringing it to whatever passed for mouths among their species. Similar scenes played out from other worlds. On each, the joy and relief were obvious even across species barriers. "This is happening right now on 23 worlds," Frank told the silent Senate. "By the end of the week, it will be happening on 400 planets that the Empire has ignored for too long." In the back of the chamber, Grand Minister Zoltek watched with his skin, changing colors rapidly, a sign of intense emotion among his species. He touched a communication device and spoke quietly. "Your Imperial Majesty, the humans have outmaneuvered us. They've positioned themselves as saviors to the outer colonies. If we move against Earth now, we risk rebellion across half the Empire. In orbit around Earth, the Imperial warships remained in position. Their commanders received new orders: maintain vigilance but take no aggressive action. Admiral Steve Johnson watched them from the bridge of Earth's best defensive ship, a vessel that would be no match for Imperial technology in a real fight. There, staying put, his first officer reported. Not advancing, not retreating. Steve nodded. Phase 1 of the water gambit is working. We've created enough doubt in their military strategy. Now we wait for the political effects. Those effects came sooner than expected. The next day, Frank received a message requesting his presence at an unusual location, the Imperial Palace itself. When he arrived, he was surprised to find not just Grand Minister Zoltek waiting, but Emperor Vexnar as well. The Emperor was not what Frank expected. Rather than a large, imposing figure, Vexnar was small, with delicate features and skin that glowed slightly in the dim light of the palace. "Senator Warren," the Emperor said, his voice soft but commanding. "Your world has created quite a situation for my empire." Frank bowed slightly, as protocol required. "That was not our intention, Your Majesty." "Wasn't it?" The Emperor's eyes, all 6 of them, studied Frank carefully. "You've made my poorest worlds depend on Earth technology in less than a week. That's either brilliant strategy or remarkable coincidence." Frank said nothing, waiting. The Emperor smiled, showing teeth that looked oddly like pearls. "I believe we should discuss a new arrangement between Earth and the Empire, one that might benefit us both." 5 years passed quickly. The day was bright and clear as Kevin Mitchell walked through the new Galactic Commonwealth headquarters on Centauri Prime. The building combined architectural styles from 100 worlds. Fountains, a design feature, inspired by Earth, lined the main walkway. To aliens from water-poor worlds, these fountains represented not just beauty, but a symbol of a new era. Kevin straightened his ambassador's uniform and touched the Commonwealth insignia on his chest. Earth's position in the galaxy had changed dramatically since John Miller first mentioned oceans at that fateful reception. "Ambassador Mitchell," called a voice behind him. Kevin turned to see Zoltek approaching. The former Grand Minister, too. The Emperor now served as the Commonwealth's Minister of Resource Distribution. His skin shifted through pleased colors of blue and green. "Minister Zoltek," Kevin said with a slight bow. "Ready for today's council meeting?" Indeed, the first session of the new Commonwealth Council is historic. Zoltek fell into step beside Kevin. "Your predecessor did remarkable work negotiating the transition." Kevin nodded. Frank Warren had spent 3 years helping to transform the old imperial structure into something more equitable. When Frank decided to return to Earth in his teaching career, Kevin had been selected as Earth's new representative. They entered the council chamber, a circular room with seats for representatives from all member worlds. Unlike the old Senate, all seats were the same size and height, regardless of a planet's status or wealth. "Before we begin," Zoltek said quietly, "would you join me for a drink? I have something special arranged." He led Kevin to a small side room where a table was set with 2 very different drinks, a glass of clear water and a steaming cup of brown liquid. "Coffee?" Kevin asked, surprised. "How did you get that here?" Zoltek's skin rippled with amusement. "Earth's new exports are creating quite a sensation. This coffee is worth almost as much as water was in the old economy." He gestured to the seats. "Please join me." They sat, each taking their preferred drink. Water for Zoltek, coffee for Kevin. Did humans truly not realize the value of what you possessed? Zoltek asked after taking a reverent sip of water. Kevin smiled. "We always knew water was precious for life. We just never imagined others didn't have it. Sometimes the things you take for granted turn out to be your greatest strength." "Indeed," Zoltek agreed. "And your water gambit changed everything." Kevin remembered how it all unfolded. After Earth's technology capsules reached those first few hundred worlds, the balance of power shifted rapidly. Planets that had depended on imperial water rations for generations suddenly had their own sustainable water cycles. The Empire couldn't maintain control through water dependency anymore. Emperor Vex-Nar had been clever enough to see the changing tide. Rather than fight it, he proposed a new alliance structure, the Galactic Commonwealth, where planets would have equal representation regardless of their resources. The first shipment of atmospheric water generators arrives at Xerxes 9 tomorrow, Zoltek said, interrupting Kevin's thoughts. Count Drex is finally accepting Commonwealth assistance. Kevin raised his eyebrows. I thought he'd hold out forever. Pride is expensive when your people are thirsty, Zoltek said simply. Even the most stubborn leaders eventually bend to necessity. Count Drex had been one of the last holdouts from the old imperial structure. His water-poor military planet had refused Commonwealth technology, clinging to the old ways. But revolution had threatened when his people learned what they were missing. Will you lead the council session today? Zoltek asked. Kevin nodded. Earth's term as chair begins now. We'll focus on the new trade routes first. The trade routes had been redrawing the galactic map. Planets that were once ignored for their lack of resources now produced specialized goods and services. Earth's water technology had allowed worlds to develop their own unique advantages. When they returned to the main chamber, representatives from 200 worlds were taking their seats. Some were former imperial core worlds. Others had been poor outer colonies, but all sat as equals now. Kevin took his place at the chairperson's position and called the session to order. The Commonwealth Council fell silent. 5 years ago, Kevin began, a human diplomat mentioned that Earth has oceans. That simple statement changed the galaxy. Today, we begin a new chapter as equal partners in the Commonwealth. As Kevin spoke, Dr. Alice Bennett and her team were working in a lab on Earth. They had spent years improving water technology, developing systems that could extract moisture from almost any environment. Their newest project sat on a testing platform, a device smaller than a human hand that could pull water molecules from seemingly dry air. Final test, Alice said, placing the device in a sealed chamber with desert-like conditions. She pressed a control, and the device hummed softly. Within minutes, water droplets began forming in a collection vessel. Paul Garcia, now her chief engineer, checked the readings. 97% efficiency, that's our best yet. Alice nodded with satisfaction. Prepare the specifications for the Commonwealth Sharing Program. This will help the most arid worlds. Under the Commonwealth Agreement, Earth shared water technology with all member worlds. In return, Earth received various technologies from other planets, medical advances, energy systems, and materials science that would have taken humans centuries to develop alone. Back on Centauri Prime, Kevin concluded his opening address. The first item on our agenda is the application of 3 new worlds seeking Commonwealth membership. A representative from a small blue planet stood up. Will they receive water technology as part of their entry package? Yes, Kevin confirmed. The standard technology sharing applies to all new members, even though they sided with the Empire during the transition? Asked another representative. Kevin nodded firmly. The Commonwealth doesn't hold grudges. Water access is a right for all worlds, not a political tool. This statement received approving murmurs around the chamber. It represented the greatest change from the old imperial system. Resources were no longer weapons of control. After the session ended, Kevin walked with Zoltek through the building's central atrium. A huge fountain dominated the space, with water flowing freely in elaborate patterns. Visiting diplomats from water-poor worlds often stood mesmerized by it. Sometimes I still can't believe how much has changed, Zoltek said. The Empire stood for 10,000 years, and a single human statement about oceans transformed it in just 5. Kevin watched the play of light on the water. Not just a statement. It was what we did after that mattered. Earth could have used water to become the new empire. Instead, we chose to help others find their own sources. A wiser path, Zoltek agreed. And a more profitable one, ironically. Earth's water technology is now more valuable than all the water in your oceans could ever have been. As they stood there, a group of young aliens from various worlds ran past, laughing and splashing water from the fountain on each other. Their parents watched with indulgent expressions, rather than horror at wasted resources. That, Kevin said, pointing to the playing children, is the real victory. A generation that sees water as something to enjoy, not just something to fight over. Zoltek's skin shifted to a color Kevin had learned meant deep agreement. Indeed, Ambassador. Perhaps that is the greatest gift your world has given us. Not the water itself, but the ability to stop fearing its scarcity. Kevin smiled. In the E-Dadia and Earth's most powerful export hadn't been its oceans, but its perspective on what abundance truly meant.